When you keep focusing on saving everybody else, that's overfunctioning. There's multiple reasons as to why that happens that we're going to jump in today. But the more you do that, the more that you are betraying yourself. And we feel like people betrayed us, not that that's incorrect, but then we're picking up that trend and continuing to betray ourselves because we're so focused on everybody else. Let's talk about that right now. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. Woo! It is November. Yes, it is almost big eating time, and I am happy to say I am just about all finished of my Christmas shopping. And this is just the time that I love so much. And I'm hoping that your end of the year is proving to be, I won't say exciting, but at least good. And for my Southern Hemisphere people, I know that you're getting ready to approach your summer. And I know a lot of you have sent me pictures, and during our sessions, we get to see the beautiful skies and leaves. So it's great. I kind of get the best of both worlds. But I want to jump into this. And the Patreon is going to be massively important. This gives you a worksheet. I will tell you this every week, but it gives you a worksheet that will be effective as to where you want to start. And the 5 journals are finally for sure available. You really want to consider getting those. It is something that has proven effective because you're compartmentalizing. You're not just dumping everything down in one section, and you're prompted with certain things. So you're not repetitive, because sometimes when you're journaling, you kind of go through the same thing and it becomes a bullet list and a task list, and it's just not as effective as it could be. So jump over to my website. You'll find my services there. And with the new year coming, the 90-day, which goes into many more months after that if you choose, is there. It's only good, though, if you're ready to deal with your stuff and stop blaming other people. But pop over there. You'll get the Patreon and the website in the show notes. So wherever you're getting this, look into the description, but it's the Positivity Experience. So I'm really happy about this one because it is something that I know my clients deal with. Did I deal with it? I think to a certain point I did, except for I was pretty hyper independent where, most of my family had passed away pretty early on. My dad, did when I was 29, but we had been, I won't call it estranged, it's just living in different places. So I didn't really have a lot of people that I felt the need to save, to be honest with you. I've kind of been a lone wolf for some time. I mean, I had some great roommates in the city. I've had some really great friends, but I don't know that I've ever really felt the need to save people because I didn't really have a lot of people that I allowed around me, which is, hypervigilance, hyperindependence comes with its own level of trauma. But a lot of my clients do, and I know you might too. Helping people's great. That's what we want. We want to be a society who is a community, and we look out for our community. We are effectively empathetic to things. That is a fine, fine line for when you're a people pleasing. And that goes into a trauma response, does not make it any less manipulative. People pleasing is manipulative because you don't want someone to think poorly of you. You don't want somebody to be unhappy. We understand this from trauma, and it could have been for a safety purpose, but you're here today. So whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, you're still trying to manipulate it to where you don't look like the bad guy. And that can be problematic, not just for you, or not just for them, but honestly for you. So it's not intentional, of course, but nonetheless, you want to work through that, and you are empty. You're putting yourself in a corner like everybody else did. And it's really unfortunate. We are the product of the unhealed people before us. It's like, yay, us. We're so lucky because that's all that we can learn. That's all we know. If someone gives us a half way of doing something, that's the way that we've adopted it. So you're at that point now where, God, you didn't ask for 90% of this. Let's say 85%. You didn't ask for any of this. And you're going through different parts of your life, and you're having attachment problems and ego problems, like we talked about. All those things that are something that you never asked for. But at the end of the day, you are betraying yourself because you're so focused on trying to save everybody else. And that's not a thing. And you're doing that to show some value, show some worth, show some purpose. And your purpose is in existence. You're valuable. When you exist, you have value. Now, you do want a North Star, meaning you want to have, and North Stars, plural, you want to have a few destinations that you're working towards. That's what makes us, that's what helps us grow. That's what helps us get through some of the crappy trauma that we've had. That can be religious trauma, that can be childhood trauma, that can be, gosh, a multitude of traumas. And what we're going to do here, what you and I are going to do, is we're going to talk about that chronic rescuing, because you're going to mistake that as compassion. No, 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 no. Chronic rescuing is not compassion. It's a self-betrayal pattern. Now, that's rooted in your attachment wounds, trauma, and emotional dysregulation. So as we're unpacking the neurobiology behind it, the psychology behind it, social reinforcements that's keeping you stuck, we know that it can hurt you. Very often, now this is where the ego comes in. So go back a couple weeks ago to the ego rehab. Talking about ego is one of my most favorite things. Ego attachment boundaries. That is the foundation of just life. And go back to that, because there's going to be a piece of that that says, if I do this, I am protecting them. And as mentioned before, stop trying to jump in front of the train that's going to hit the brick wall. People have to have their own experiences in life, and you don't want to prevent people. I know you want to prevent people. It's not healthy for you or them. You're going to breed resentment, and people are going to breed resentment towards you. This isn't just for you. This is other people. This is for you to be aware of, because the other people, say other people, any other people who always kind of jump in to help. Now, mind you, you're not even really asking. They're just volunteering. Help, 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 help. And then later on, that's being thrown in your face. Well, I dropped everything that I was doing for you. Meanwhile, you're thinking, I never asked you to do that. So sometimes people are going to use that quote unquote compassion as a tool, and then that's going to create a lot of problems. So you overfunction. Functioning begins in childhood, and that's when you are forced to be the emotional regulator of the household. We've talked about this. Did you have to parentify your parents? Were you running navigation? Good God. Were you running interference? I don't know why that came up. Interference because the tension in the house. I'll give you an example. So a very, very, very dysfunctional house in which I grew up in. But my brother and my sister were pretty heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol at various amounts of time. They were both born in the 40s. Yes, I had older parents. So, they were in the year of like hippie time, which would have been fine, but it went into, different hash and all of these other drugs. And so there was always a level of tension in the house, always. And because of my mom's anxiety, she would pass out. Like if it got too much, she would just pass out. So she was of no help. And dad was drinking. There was constant things. My brother pulled guns on my dad. My sister almost tried to run my dad and I over. I just happened to be there. It wasn't like it was in purpose. But there's this chronic, for me, it was this chronic running interference where I wanted to just disappear. And I would run out of my house and go 2 doors down. Like we were those like Jerry Springer family. Like we just had to be on the block. I'm sure they were like, oh God, here we go. Ironically, the cops didn't get called too much a few times when it was like, oh, there could be a danger problem, like people getting shot. But for the most part in the 70s and early 80s, it was more like, okay, everybody handle their own business in your own home. So I would go down, I would run down two doors down because I needed to get away from things. I needed to let it cool. I could see things happening in the yard. So I would wait. But at the end of the day, I would come back in and I was always on a hyper awareness of the things that were going on around me. So I was constantly in a space of kind of protecting, kind of saving. It's trying to save myself, but also trying to figure out mom, and she was sick and she was paralyzed on the left side. All these things were going on. So there was this thing where I only went to school 78 days of my 8th grade year. Luckily, they gave me all my work. My best friend gave me my work because my dad was drinking and he was working on a tow truck. And so somebody had to be with mom. So I became sort of the parentified guardian in some ways, which was extremely stressful. I know it wasn't her fault, but I had animosity towards her. There was all of these things. And I was definitely trying to navigate the household, which is why fast forward ahead, I'm 54. I have zero tolerance for victim mentality. Now, when people come to me, they're going to be a victim mentality, and I can appreciate that because they want to work through it. I went through victim mentality on the level of I felt people needed to save me. People owed me something because I had such a crappy place. And then you throw in religious trauma as well. Whew, that was a whole thing. So there was constantly things that not where I necessarily needed to save people, but I definitely wanted the house to have, my God, just 5 minutes of just, let's breathe. Like, you were always hyper independent. So that I guess I was trying to save people then, not so much now. And I haven't for many, many years. And it's not bad to be of help, but not at the cost of you. So when you're an over functioning person, and this is common in families with addiction, mental illness, narcissism, codependency, you become the fixer. And then you're internalizing the belief that your value is tied to what they do for others. So now you're responsible because this is where that projection comes in. And I understand you're coming from a great place. You don't want anybody to go through what you went through. Don't do that. Do not. I know you want to help people. Wait until they come to you and say, hey, what do you think of this? Wait till it is asked. Don't jump in and try to fix things. Just because you see your friend has a bad relationship with somebody, stay out of it. And if it's aggressively abusive, you talk to her or him, whomever, you talk to them and say, listen, I'm a little concerned. What is it that I need to do to help you through this? Now, if it's super bad and you're like, oh my God, then yes, you would call the cops. However, you cannot make somebody leave. So stop trying to save someone. Be there for them. Say, hey, I'm here. We can find resources together. But I'm going to tell you right now, even given the fact of anything that you're trying to do to help, it's not always going to be received that way. You could see, let's say it's not quite as violent. You're out and you see your friend's boyfriend, husband, whomever, out with some girl. And you know that they're not just like hanging out. Like you can tell it's a thing. Great. I know. Absolutely. You can talk to your friend. You can say, hey, listen, I have some information and I just want to know if it's something that you want to hear. If they're like, yes, still be cautious. Still be cautious. You think you're doing a favor. But now you point it out. They're mad. Oh my God, they're mad. They bring it up to the person. It's terrible. Now you've asked. Don't just give the information. Say, I have some information. Would you like it? It might hurt your feelings. Give them the opportunity before you just go blurting it out. But keep in mind, even when you do that, there's a chance it's going to come back to bite you. So now you've gotten it off your chest. They said, yes, you got it off your chest. Those guys have their talk. And, they're telling you, yes, I'm done. I'm out of here. You're like, okay, great. Well, like 4 or 5 days later, they've made up. They've started to make up because people see what they want to see. I don't care what you see for them. I don't care what you see for them. They have to see it for them. You can't love someone into loving you more. You can't love someone into changing. You cannot do that. So later on, now that person comes and goes, hey, like, thank you for bringing that to me. And I know I asked for it, but such and such said that you were following them around and that you were making up stories. So of course you showed me pictures based on what you wanted, because just like they said, you're jealous because I have them. And you might be thinking, what the hell? Like, that's not at all true. Don't go down the defending tour because a person's going to believe what they want to believe. So when you're trying to rescue someone from what you know, ask if they're in a place to hear it, ask if they want to hear it. But you also need to know that it's not always going to work from a place in which you're seeking. And I know a lot of you have experienced it because some of you listening are my clients and we have talked about this at length. So when you're trying to fix it, then you're going to internalize. Well, and then now you're mad. Now you're upset with the friend in this situation. God, I can't believe I'm not going to say anything to them ever again. I was just trying to help. Valid, but just remember, be careful. Sometimes people don't want rescued and you can't keep rescuing them. And the more you do that, the more that you're avoiding yourself. What are you resisting rescuing? Seriously, like, what do you, because that means you might have to get out of your marriage, stop talking to everybody around you and start fresh. Or it might mean, hey, you know what? I'm just going to take a step back from overcommitting and over functioning. It doesn't have to be so like pendulum swing from left to right, but you got to be willing to do that, because your over functioning is not only from a trauma place, it's a high level of avoidance too. Because now you're over functioning for other people, but you're also able to avoid anything that you need to focus on yourself right now. So now you're going to convince yourself, well, I need to do this for these people. And now you're taking on their codependency, and now you're becoming codependent, and now you're enmeshed, and it's a whole thing. So how does overhelping become betrayal? So when you're chronically rescuing, it's hijacking your nervous system. So your brain's reward circuit, that's your dopamine system, what works on rewards, it's reinforcing that you're helping behavior by making you feel valuable. So it goes, yes, this is good. You feel valuable. Here's your dopamine. Your nervous system says, this is my destiny. Let me give you an example. My stuff is here. My short forms here, my podcasts here, my Patreon's here, and my individual sessions are here. My 5 journals are here. And my soon to be book is here for those who want it. It is a great North Star. I know it's effective. You will, but I'm not going to rescue you. I'm going to give you the information for you to use as a resource to help rescue yourself by having a starting point, which is what I do with my clients. It's a starting point. I'm not saving you. I'm just giving you a light at the end of the tunnel with a little bit of direction on your yellow brick road. So that's different. You can help someone without enabling them, because enabling them is problematic as well. So it's not actually doing anything to your dopamine system. That's an illusion. But it's your cortisol is increasing, because then you're over functioning. That's going to lead to burnout, mood swings, and resentment. Resentment's a massive piece of this. Massive piece. Because you're just trying to help. So let's go back to that other fake scenario. Well, it's not really a fake scenario, but for this conversation, it is. And now you're upset with your friend who you were just looking out for. Now you're mad. And you're right. I mean, you're not right to be mad. You can have your emotional feelings. You can have your feelings. They're not right or wrong. But just keep that in your storage box. Because you can come from such a great place of intention, and it doesn't always have to be seen as that way. A lot of people won't see it that way. So if you're rescuing people to prevent pain, to prevent experience, they might not always appreciate that. They might say you're being overbearing, which you might be. You're being overbearing. You're in their business. There's too much going on. Even if you're coming from a good place, you have to remember this can breed resentment to you. God, you'll definitely get burned out. Because if everybody likes you, this is a problem. Yes. If everybody, and I don't just mean close people around you, I mean in the world. If every single person you meet on this planet likes you, that's a problem. Because that means you are morphing into everything everybody wants, except for who you are. When you're your authentic self, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And don't try to over focus on bringing that person to the table or certain people to the table. So you know that if every person says, oh my God, I love them, I love them, I love them, that's problematic. You got to look and say, how am I betraying myself? Because in my case, I'm only here for the people who are tired of their own stuff, who really want direction, who really want to make a change. There's going to be people who don't want to make the change, that are going to be like, oh my God, she's crazy. She'll know what she's talking about. Da, da, da. Of course, because a person doesn't like a mirror. They don't want to address the fact that it's them, not everybody else. But I'm solid in authenticity, and it's effective. But if everyone liked me, I would be inauthentic, and I would be, how could I help anybody? Because then all I'm doing is people pleasing and telling you guys how to people please. It's the opposite of that. So if you find yourself in burnout, you got mood swings, you're constantly on edge, stop over functioning for people. Then you have cognitive dissonance. There's a whole podcast on the whole episode is on cognitive dissonance. That's when you're going to start to believe that if I stop helping, I'm abandoning them. But see, simultaneously, you're feeling unappreciative, overworked, and used. So two things are happening. You're like, damn it. I feel underappreciated. I'm so tired of giving. But if I leave, I'm abandoning them. You got to go. How they perceive this is how they perceive it. Don't convince yourself that if you put yourself as a priority, you're abandoning somebody, you're distancing. If they see it as abandonment, that's theirs to process. Now, vice versa. Vice versa. Yes, if I take you out in the middle of the desert and I kick you out of the car and I drive off, I have abandoned you on the side of the road. Yes, correct. But if you stop rescuing and you stop enabling, people aren't going to like it. So they're going to tell you, I can't believe you're abandoning me. When things get hard, you're abandoning me. I thought you loved me more. After all of these things, you know I need you. This is where you want to be real careful because you're going to feel underappreciated. You're going to feel overworked. You're going to feel used. But then you're afraid to distance. Why? That's what you and I work on right there. The why. Why are you not willing to put yourself as a priority? I know why. Because, well, multitude of reasons. You're still living in past trauma, possibly victim mentality, people pleasing, definitely high nervous system things. There's like 12 other things as to why you're there. We know you didn't ask to get here, but you're here. So it is your responsibility to focus on healing it. Even though it's kind of a shitty thing that you didn't ask for it, but you got to heal some stuff that somebody else broke or messed up. But it is what it is. This is where we are. So stop thinking that putting yourself in and being there for you, learning who you are. You're told who you are. You're told what religion to practice. You're told who to do this with. You're told these things. Guess what? You don't got to do any of those. You get to practice whatever spiritual practice you like. You can vote for whoever you want to vote for. You can move to any state you want to move to, as long as it's something that's focused on you, that you know you align with for you. For you. And, you know, it's an unfortunate thing because the world that we live in today, regardless of where you live, it's very volatile, very volatile. There's a lot of things that can harm people, you know, that's uh, something that's somewhat out of our control based on whatever country we live in, whoever's, you know, head of power, whatever. That can become a hard thing of feeling like out of control. And that's going to resonate with feeling out of control when you were younger. So this is where going into the religious trauma, and I did a podcast on it, and maybe I'll visit another one for you because people seem to really need to vibe in with the religious trauma. This is where you have to say, I'm allowed to be disliked because I am authentic. Listen what I'm saying. I am allowed to be disliked because I'm authentic. If you're being liked by everybody, you're inauthentic. So this is what you need to know. And if that means you distance from somebody, then you distance from them. There are trauma patterns. So your trauma, any trauma survivor, is going to equate stillness with danger. This is why when things get calm, you go, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why? Oh, now your nervous system goes, we're not panicking. So when helping someone is a distraction, that's giving you this sense of control and safety. Because it's an illusion that if you keep helping and doing, that's a distraction from yourself. Because stillness isn't boring. Stillness isn't danger. But you got to train your nervous system to realize that. And that is not overnight. Stop trying to make this fast. Stop trying to look for the magic solution. There isn't a magic solution. And it's going to be you committing to doing the work repetitively over and over and over and over and over again. The same thing that you're like, damn it, why do I keep talking about the same thing? Like for you, why do I keep having to do the same thing? Because until you don't, and until you do, you're not going to be in a place where you can literally change who you are, because it has to be repetitive and it has to become the new normal. That's your new default system. Now, what are the signs? I know some of you already are like, my God, I'm in rescue patterns, but I'm going to give you some signs that you are in rescue patterns. I want you to ask yourself, do I feel panicked or useless when I can't fix somebody? Let's just sit there. I'm going to ask you again. Do I feel panicked or useless when I can't fix someone, whether it be mentally, addiction, bad relationships, learning disabilities, whatever? Do you feel panicked or useless? This is where we know we need to work. Do I constantly check on others? Like, are you constantly checking on others' feelings but ignoring your own? Am I constantly saying, "How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? You okay? You okay? You okay?" Because you've set boundaries, or you know someone didn't get their way and they're already kind of throwing a temper tantrum. So now you're always checking on everybody else's feelings, but yet you're ignoring your own. This is where you know you're in a rescue pattern. Do I feel guilty when I say no? Go ahead. Everybody raise their hand, because I know a lot of you do. Why? Now, this isn't on here as far as what I had planned out to talk to you about, so I'm going to divert just a little bit. What is your fear of hearing no? Not you saying no. So let's go into that. If someone tells you no, you take it as a rejection. No isn't a rejection, it's just no. It's how you see it. You're not rejected, you feel rejected. So a lot of times, if that is where you are, where you don't like to hear the word no because you feel some kind of way, now you're projecting, I don't want others to feel this way. So now you're afraid to say no. You're afraid to be disliked. You're afraid to disappoint someone. You're afraid of so many other things. No is it. You've heard no is a complete sentence, and it is. So do I feel guilty when I say no? This is how you know you're in a rescue pattern. Do I try to convince others to see the light when they clearly don't want to change? Is this where you're constantly bringing up all this mirror? Here, look at this, look at this, look at this. Are you trying to convince others by being the light when they clearly don't want to change? So you keep trying to force the change. If they just see this, you see this a lot in relationships. If they would just go to therapy, okay, they did that. That doesn't seem to be working either. Well, if they would just do this, if they would just take this medicine, if they would, okay, stay in your lane. Focusing so much on what they need to do. What do you need to do? What are steps you need to make? Because when we stop trying to rescue other people, you're faced with these inner children of yourself. And you got to sit there and you got to figure out how you're supposed to rescue yourself. And this is where you know that you're in rescue patterns, triangulation risk, because there is one. Rescuers often get caught in triangulated relationships. Yes, if you're a chronic rescuer, very often you're going to get caught in a triangulated relationship. And that's where you become the buffer between two parties. That can lead to a lot of emotional enmeshment and reinforce savior complex. Savior complex, not good. Not good. Don't convince yourself that you're super compassionate and don't do that. You're lying to yourself. You listen, great to have empathy, great to have compassion, not at the risk of yourself and not at the risk of enabling. So are you now the buffer between mom and dad? Are you the buffer between two friends? Are you the buffer between the sister and the mom? We want you to get out of that. Your job isn't to play mediator. Don't take that on. It's not good for your nervous system. Listen, have communication. But people have to have emotional maturity, and not everybody has emotional maturity. So as you start this growth journey, you're going to develop emotional maturity, because you're going to start, I don't really want to look at myself, but I had to. And now I'm taking validation of self. You have to validate yourself. If you can't validate yourself, that's problematic. So that's when you can say, hey, listen, I am not going to be, I use the friend dynamic. Let's talk about that. 3 friends. All those odd numbers are always interesting, usually younger, but even as adults, the odd number friendships can be a little weird, because sometimes 2 people team up. Like, I'm fine, go live your best life with whomever, but it can be interesting. So if your 2 friends, like I mentioned before, have beef and they're both trying to quote unquote win you, you need to step back And don't not talk to somebody because the other one has beef. And if that person has beef that you're not siding with them, they're not your friend anyway. Oh, I can't believe you're talking to them. Do you know how bad they hurt me? Whoa, we just made this about you. They didn't hurt me. I'm not going to sit there and cut somebody off because you got hurt by them. I'm not going to do that. Just because the friend decided that they didn't want to go out with you and you feel some kind of way, okay. But that comes with emotional maturity. Rescuing would be like, oh, I'm trying to make everybody happy. Boy, that can backfire too. Because now, regardless of what it is, you're always just in the middle. You're choosing their side. Oh, you're choosing their side. And now every bit of good intention that you had has gone completely out the window. So let's stop saving and start letting go. Here's step 1. Name your pattern by saying it. And we're going to go much deeper on the Patreon worksheet, so I highly recommend it. But when you're saying it out loud, I'm about to rescue again because my nervous system is uncomfortable with their distress. So know what it is. This is not about judgment. This isn't about, oh my God, I got to change it. You're just naming it. I'm about to rescue again because my nervous system is uncomfortable with their distress. You don't like when people get stressed out. Number 2, regulate first before responding. Pause and co-regulate with your body. It's where you take deep breathing. That's going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's like your red and digest mode. And then allowing access to your prefrontal cortex for the decision making. So don't immediately jump out and go, oh my God, I got to respond or reply out of emotion. Breathe. Just, okay, let's focus in on our prefrontal. What are some problem solvings? Because a person may never even want the answer. Some people don't want the solve. They want to wallow in it. So you have to go, okay, is this something worth engaging with? Because they're going to be pissed off at you anyway. It really doesn't matter. So that decision making can become a lot better for you when you pause, regulate before responding. And then you have to pause and co-regulate within your body. Step 3 is asking. Was help requested? Ooh, hear that? Hear that? 3 words. Was help requested? Unsolicited help is often a way to avoid your own emotions. So if you're uncomfortable with it, you feel the need to go change their discomfort. But was that asked for? Did they ask you or did you just jump in? Because helping only when asked, that's going to reduce codependency and it's going to reinforce boundaries. Now, the caveat to that, the 10% caveat to that, is if someone is asking, quote unquote, to be rescued, make sure they're not asking you to enable them. Make sure they're not asking that, because if you see a pattern recognition, that they tend to ask for things because they want to seem to be right, that's a problem. So step 4 is redefining. Healthy love respects boundaries and includes mutual effort. It's love. Healthy love, hear that? Healthy love respects boundaries, and that includes mutual effort. If the relationship requires you to shrink at all, fix or abandon yourself, that's not love. It's obligation rooted in fear. You don't love somebody, you feel obligated to them. You feel obligated. So when you're sitting in that place and you say, I can't be me, I can't be authentic, I got to fix them, or you know what, this is really disturbing my peace, but I'm going to abandon myself anyway, that's not love. Stop trying to convince yourself of that. Now, step 5 is practice releasing. Say this: they are allowed to fail, struggle, and grow on their own terms. Listen to that again. They are allowed to fail, struggle, and grow on their own terms. My job is not to save them, but to support myself in staying whole. Put that somewhere. They are allowed to fail, struggle, and grow on their own terms. My job is not to save them, but to support myself in staying whole. That's very, very important, because you're not healing others by betraying yourself. You're not a martyr because you're listen, growing up, that can be so problematic because you're told that if you basically, in so many words, if you protect your peace, you're selfish. Well, then be selfish. If that's going to be the definition because you're protecting your peace, and you're learning and you're growing, then be whatever it is that somebody wants to label you. The first boundary that you need to hold is the one that says, I deserve rest, or I deserve to rest, be respected, and choose peace over performance. Because very often you're performing, you're in a performance mode. And that's the big piece of it. Interesting thing too. Very often when you are the quote unquote rescuer, right? Because unless you have somebody in a building with a fire and you're going in to save them, you're not rescuing anybody. You are repairing, you're trying to repair them while tearing apart your nervous system. Because like I was saying with my, in the beginning, when I was talking about my childhood with all of the crazy, because I was on a regular basis. Could have been a Monday, could have been a Friday, could have been a Tuesday at lunch. Like it could have been at any time. So there's no pattern. So if you see people around you and there's no pattern, of course you're going to be in constant heightened like nervous system, because you can't really get settled. You can't be like, okay, this person's going to lose it on me at 5:00 on Wednesday, every Wednesday. There's no prep mode for that at all. So you're not prepping for anything. You're in a space where you're constantly in constantly in your nervous system. And that's the big piece that says to you, hey, what is it that I'm avoiding with protecting myself? Protecting self. This doesn't mean that you have to go into battle. You don't have to put up your sword and your shield. You have to first know what your peace is. Number one, you have to first know you deserve it. Before we even start talking about protecting your peace, you don't even know that you deserve it. You don't even know what it looks like. But I'll tell you one thing, until you're willing to be the villain, disliked, misunderstood, and need to be right, you will stay in a spin out cycle. You're not going to let anybody do anything. Don't tell me you're letting them. You're not. You're not. You're so worried about being disliked by people, no matter who they are to you, that have benefited from no boundaries. This is conditional relationship. These are conditional relationships. Conditional. As long as you're coming to my rescue, as long as you're doing what I want you to do, as long as you're doing that, I love you. As long as you do that, I can respect you. That's the problem. Real love isn't about always getting your way. You're allowed to be like, oh, their boundaries are kind of, oh, God, that's kind of hurtful. That's okay. That's okay. It's hurtful because you're not on the ready. It's hurtful because you're not picking up the phone every time somebody calls you when they're in crisis, but they never call you at any other time. These are the people you'll hear from. And then all of a sudden they have some kind of a weird trauma or something. And now you're their best friend again. You are there as a convenience. And if you're there as a convenience, when it suits somebody, that's not love. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I was gonna say, I'm sorry if that's hurtful. I'm not sorry that it's hurtful at all, because that's awareness. That's awareness. I'm not going to be sorry if you're hurt by someone who is constantly in a place of neglecting your peace. I won't feel sorry for you, because then that's going to make you feel sorry for yourself. And we're not going to do that. We're going to take that as feedback. That's empowerment. I'll feel empowered for you. You can be disappointed for 5 minutes, but don't go get in your space. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm going to feel empowered for you. We made a pivot. We had to pivot from that relationship. So once you start sitting in that awareness, I think it's going to be not just better for you, but definitely better for the relationships around you. You will have great relationships that will develop, maybe with or without the people that are there right now. But your energy vibration, you want to surround yourself with other people who also have that vibration, who can respect your boundaries and have no problem asserting their own. Where we're not worried about other people's feelings, we just respect them. That's how you have long-term love relationships, long-term friendships. And let people know, this is my hard line. This is my boundary. These are the things that I have to, that my requirement is. Like, is it you time? Well, if somebody doesn't understand you time, that's a problem too. That's a whole different topic of a conversation. You're not allowed to have me time because it's now they feel neglected. Oh, hard pass. Now we're going into control and attachment and all these other things. So I just want you to ask yourself those rescue questions. Are you a rescuer? Now, why? Why are you a rescuer? You don't want to be disliked? Why not? Why? What is your fear of being disliked? Go look in the mirror when you get done. Listen to this. Look in the mirror, look in the rear view mirror in the car. Why do you need to be liked by other people when that person looking in the mirror is the only one that needs to like and love you first? And when you build the foundation around your authenticity and your love and your ability to say no and your ability to receive no, your ability to receive other people's boundaries and not feel like, oh, I'm being rejected or abandoned, you got to ask yourself the why and then go deeper with that why, the why beneath the why, beneath the why, beneath the why. And then you'll start to get to the heart of it. And then you know where we need to start focusing. So focus on who you are. Let that be your top priority. Who is the authentic self? What do you believe? You don't have to run that by anybody. If it's right for you, it's right for you. And if somebody doesn't want what's best for you, even if they're not a part of it, that's not love. That's not love. If I love you and you feel like you're going to be better without me, even if my feelings are hurt, if I truly love you, I want you to find your happiness, even if I'm not involved part of that. That's emotional maturity, and that's true love. So just focus on that. You can start to save yourself or show up for yourself. Many other people didn't, and you just hopped on that bandwagon. So it's time to stop rescuing and start really getting to know yourself.